There we go. I'm cozy. I've got a drink. I'm ready to talk. So let's talk about the Xbox Game Showcase. I thought it was great. As a quick preamble, let's say, I'm not going to talk about the pre-show and the after-show, just the show itself, as the YouTube algorithm dictates. Is the reason you're here is for the showcase itself. If you'd like to hear my thoughts on anything else outside of that, then feel free to ask and I'll get that sorted for you. I'm not hugely happy with this screen deal going on here. It's got these black borders around the end. Doesn't look very good. I was trying to, basically, if I kind of push those out to actually fit, it would look a bit chunky. So maybe we could go for something better. There we go. It's the Xbox 720. It's due out in 2013. So good luck. Get ready for that one. Anyway, so you'll now have to witness that with me. Yeah, talking about the showcase itself, this is going to be almost entirely unscripted, as was the last video. Some slight edits here and there, and some general music, but mostly it's just my conversation, my thoughts on it, and things like that. So I'd like to open up a way of talking to other people. So if you'd like to fill out your thoughts and things like that, then please do. I've stayed away from Twitter, I've stayed away from my friends, made sure that I do not get opinions elsewhere. So if this is either really controversial or totally in line with what everyone's saying, it doesn't matter. This is just how I feel about it. I'm looking forward to being told all my opinions are bad. Anyway, it's generally unscripted, but I do have a rough notes of the games that were there on my phone that I'll go to every now and then to get a little refresh of what it was and what they're offering. So let's talk about the showcase. It opened with Liquid Crystal Cannot Rise on its own, and I think among some other general mysterious kind of statements, but I think thematically it sort of opened up what the game is going to be quite well. It talks about the idea that it's not just the Master Chief, there's more to it. You have to, hop in, you have to be part of that experience. It all means nothing until you step inside, or whatever that quote was from it. I think it kind of gears you up for what it's going to be quite well. It is an experience with you and the people within the game, and I think that sort of reminds me of Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo Reach, that kind of shtick, the whole, together we rise, alone we fall. And I think it's good. I think that with the cover art of Infinite, if you've seen it, drawing kind of parallels to the original Halo Combat Evolved, I think it's a good idea. I don't think the gameplay expressed that, really. I think the gameplay felt smooth. It felt kind of fluid. It had, a chain sort of akin to like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat or something. And to be honest, it reminded me of Doom Eternal, Titanfall 2, those games that are kind of stylish and flashy and just feel really cool to play. And while it's really great they've done that, I don't know how much that fits my perception of Halo. My perception of Halo is weighted, is floaty, is a little bit blocky. And I think that is what I expect from Halo. I don't expect it to be incredibly smooth. I expect a certain weight to it because your dudes in armored suits shooting rockets and whatever else. And I don't think it was really that. I think even looking at the weapons, you look at the weapon, you know what it does. And I didn't feel that way with Halo 1, 2, and 3. I felt like you had to pick up a weapon, you were excited to pick up a new weapon because you didn't know what it did. And that to me is very interesting, and I didn't really get that with Infinite. Infinite felt similar to other games, and I don't think that was in gameplay alone. If you look at the TAC map and the upgrade system, it reminded me of a Ubisoft game or something. It felt like this big, possibly empty, open world with lots of like little things to do that aren't part of the story. And I think that's a formula that was brought up by Ubisoft years ago, and we're slowly starting to realize doesn't really work anymore. And I don't know I feel like Infinite jumping onto that kind of style might lose a part of the identity of Halo, as cynical as that might sound. But regardless, you know, I'm looking forward to giving it a go myself and hopefully being wrong. I don't have to put any money up because every game talked about in the showcase is on Game Pass, which is... that's incredible. I think Game Pass is possibly the single biggest pro that the Xbox has. I think if I were talking to someone and they said, what should I buy with my price point? If they were at the lowest price point there, I would advise an Xbox One X, or no, not an Xbox One X, an Xbox One. If you had, you know, the €200 kind of range, I would pick up an Xbox One X, a month of Game Pass for €1, and you have hundreds of games to try. Whereas you don't really have that with PlayStation 4 or PC. Well, PC ethically, I suppose pirating does exist, but that's not really a conversation I wanted to get into right now. If they wanted a console, I think the Switch is great. It's portable, it has lots of charm, but first-party titles from 4 years ago are still full price. The PS4 Pro again, or PS4, sorry, lots of good titles. The best exclusives of the two of them, which I mean isn't saying much, let's be honest, but they still cost more. Like, there is probably a cultural kind of game, and by cultural game I mean, you know, something that the people around you are playing and talking about maybe every couple of months or so. I mean, there's been Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2 in the last month and a half. Like, that's good. There's some big titles, and there's far more than that. You know, every week there's a new thing to look at and a new thing to enjoy or whatever. But again, the price point is higher, so I think that is something the Xbox that's something it has and will always have over the PlayStation. The Xbox Game Pass, I believe, is the best value for money basically in the market. I can't think of anything else that even compares to it. It's a genuinely really, really good service, and I think that's what makes this showcase quite good to me personally. If I were to arbitrarily rank these games on a ranking of 0 to 10 based on how good I think they are, which I wouldn't do because that seems silly to me, but let's say if, I don't know, Halo Infinite was a 6, you know, good, not great, you know, okay to good kind of range. I'm not saying it is, I don't really know what I would rank it. That would bring it up by a point, I think. The fact that it's on Game Pass, the fact that I can play it, I can get that curiosity sated without really putting much up for it. You know, I would have that Game Pass anywhere. I'm not buying it for Halo Infinite, I just get to play it. I think that's incredible. I think that's really, really good. You can enjoy those cultural moments with Xbox without having to put that money up front. Now, those cultural moments don't really happen as much with Xbox, in fairness, but, you know, being there for Gears of War 5 day one, despite the fact that I'm not really the type of person who would buy Gears day one, is cool. I like the fact that I can take part in that, and it's no wonder that it's such a big deal. So yeah, I think that's kind of the way I feel about that. I know that's not really Halo, that's about Game Pass, but going back to Halo for one more thing, they did say it was 60 FPS, which, I mean, I don't know if they mentioned 4K. It's nice that they're hitting the kind of benchmark of where the next gen is going. There was rumblings of people only still hitting the 30 FPS mark and PC gamers going wild. But yeah, I mean, it's good that that's a thing that's been clarified. Let's see if it's true when it comes out. Then moving on from there, we had the Forza trailer. It was not long, 30 seconds to a minute maybe, of just a short little thing of Forza Plus announcing it was there. And honestly, that's what I wanted. I didn't want 10 minutes talking about the weather effects in Forza. I know they're going to be there. I mean, in fairness, I'm not a massive racing sim fan. I do enjoy some arcade races. I enjoyed Forza Horizon 4. But the build-up to Forza Horizon 4 did not make me like it anymore. It did not make me care about it as much, really. I cared about it because I played it for free and I enjoyed it. Well, for free, there's a caveat to that with Game Pass. But you know what I mean? We know that Forza's going to be there. We know it's probably going to have some impressive tech. I'm not too bothered about it, but it's nice that they've still confirmed it's there. Then moving on, you've got Rare. It's nice to just see their logo every now and then. And they talked about Everwild. This is a game, I was actually talking to someone from the Xbox Hub the other day, you can check them out if you like. I write for them, and they're cool dudes. I was talking to someone the other day who mentioned that, and I sort of like, I didn't realize what it was. Like I was like, oh, what is that? And they sent the trailer in, and I realized I saw that trailer. That trailer looked really good, and then Xbox didn't talk about it again. So it's nice that they are talking about it. I was hoping they would, and they did. I think it's really, Everwild looked artistic. It looked really good. It had some level of sort of esoteric story to it that's always fun to kind of explore and see what they're doing. I think you can tell how entrenched someone is into the world they're building. If they, they sometimes do get lost in what they're explaining. They get a little bit, excited, and I think it's important to see that. I think Xbox have finally let some of their divisions actually do things they find exciting. You've got Obsidian doing their things. You've got Ninja Theory, who did their thing a couple months ago it was okay, but it was something they wanted to do, and I'm happy that's happening. I'm quite happy that Rare can explore the avenues they want to. I personally can't imagine they wanted to make Kinect Adventures and whatever else. Maybe they did, or Rare Replay, but I'm glad that they can do something they want to do. Moving on, we had Don't Nod. They talked about their upcoming. Wow, that was a strange thing my brain just did. They have an upcoming game called Tell Me Why. Episode 1 is out somewhere between the kind of middle to end of August. I mean, it looked like the kind of their fare, it was a story-driven, interactive game. Something like Life is Strange, Walking Dead, those kind of things. And it looked good. I think they had an emotional story trailer, sorry. And, I'll play it on Game Pass. I don't think it's something I care about too much, but I'm sure it's something I'll spend an evening in, get emotionally invested to, and then forget about forever. But yeah, I'm excited to see that is happening. Nothing too extreme so far, nothing too extraordinary, just some nice little things, nice little filler to kind of get you into the thing. And here's another one. Ori and the Will of Wisps is coming to Xbox Series X, 120 FPS, 4K. That's cool. They are numbers that you like to see, to say they're bigger than these numbers over here. 120 is bigger than 60, 4K is better than 1080p. I personally didn't really see it within what they were trying to do. They slowed down the frames. They showed 2 frames side by side, and they slowed it down. And that's cool, but I'm not playing the game in slow motion, so I would like to see them side by side normal and see there. I mean, again, it's dependent on you. It's depending on the TV and monitor you use. A lot of different things, I guess. But I don't know. I don't really think that showing them slowed down was a very good idea, because cynics like me might think, oh well, they're slowing it down so you'll see it, so maybe you wouldn't even see it that much normally. Not 120 FPS overall, but the way in which they are specifically doing that. Certain games will benefit from that more. Certain games that require those things. I can't imagine, talking about the last game, Tell Me Why would benefit from 120 FPS, because it moves rather slowly. It's got slow moving sort of actions, the way that the game is designed, that's just the sort of the way it is, so I can't imagine that benefiting much. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's nice that it's getting what's that thing called? The smart delivery system, where if you bought it on the Xbox One, you get it on the Xbox Series X. It's good. There's a lot of nice little things going on throughout this conference. There's a lot of nice little things where it's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Like, I'm glad that's happening. I'm glad that the game I've already paid for I get on the next console. I'm glad the service I'm already paying for has more things on it. Nothing too mind-blowing, but some nice little things. Moving on, the OuterWorlds a DLC is coming out called Peril Gorgon, or Gorgon. If that's not the right name and I've just completely made that up, I'll have the right name right here, and if not, then I won't. Peril Gorgon, I believe it was called. It looked charming, it looked quite funny, it felt very much like a Fallout New Vegas DLC. It was weird, and it was wacky, it was sciencey, it was sort of like that Fallout New Vegas DLC where you play a lobotomite. Basically, you have been lobotomized and you have to fight back. I mean, of course, that seems a more interesting idea in Fallout New Vegas, but still, it seems to be carrying over a little bit of that absurd humor, those sort of the wackiness, the kind of the TV tropes, you know, which is cool. I think the Outer Worlds was a decent title. It was reasonably good RPG and certainly good for Xbox Game Pass. So I'm happy to see that's coming out too. Again, nothing too extreme, but nice. Then we got a Grounded trailer again, which I'm conflicted on a little bit. I don't know how funny I thought the Cyberpunk name drop really was, but I mean, I don't really have to find it funny to think it looks like a good game. I thought it sort of reminded me a little bit of the Mighty Number 9 trailer. The one that's like an anime fan on prom night one. Yeah, maybe just a little bit. There's a little bit of slightly cringy humor there, but I think it probably worked in its favor. It's supposed to be a bit wacky, a bit absurd or whatever. And I think the ideas look cool. Playing a survival game with a story where you can feed your friends to ants. Yeah, that's fine, and it's out soon. It's out this month, I think. Yeah. So I'm okay with that. Then the next one is one of the bigger announcements, certainly of the first half anyway. Avowed is a new first-person fantasy RPG from Obsidian. I like that idea. I think them taking their own take on, you know, a Skyrim or something, as cliche as it is to mention Skyrim in a fantasy setting when it comes to, you know, gaming RPGs. You know, someone's got to make a Skyrim now that Bethesda are going downhill, and Obsidian seem like the ones who can do it. I mean, they did try it with OuterWorlds. The same. There's something there, isn't there? When are we going to get Obsidian's Rogue Warrior moment? Anyway, yeah, they didn't show too much, but I'm happy to see they're working on stuff. I think that's what the crux of this show really is. I think it's good just to see that Xbox are putting in that effort and that time into something that people care about. Because I don't know how obvious that's been before. I think to see now every one of these is coming to Game Pass. 10 of them had not been seen before, and some of them were exclusive. I'm not too sure to what level they are. Now, the Outer Worlds DLC I can imagine is coming to Switch and PS4, although buying that on Switch probably isn't a good idea. That was a bit mean, but anyway, yeah, I don't know which of them are, so I would definitely look into that anyway, depending on what you're going after next. But yeah, then they moved on to a new studio called Interior Night. They're working on an interactive, story-driven drama. I mean, they basically called it that without the story-driven part. Called As Dusk Falls. It had this sort of almost like watercolor kind of style, graphical style that is, and I'm not too sure if the characters don't move like that because of the way they are in game, or they don't move like that because of artistic reasons, but essentially the characters didn't move so much as they looked like stills. They were moving across like an animation, like a thingy animation. I can't believe I just said thingy animation. Like a still animation where you take multiple shots and move them across. They kind of looked a little bit like that, but certainly more kind of broken up and things like that. The art style looked lovely. The story trailer felt dramatic and intense. They clearly know the tropes of how to make a story pop in that sense. I don't know how the story's going to be, but they understand how to make it intriguing at least. And I think that's good then. I think I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. Hi, I'm back. My camera happened to die, and then I went for a few hours. But I'm back. I haven't checked other people's thoughts just yet, because I wanted to get this whole thing done beforehand. So that's been a bit of a struggle. But yeah, let's continue on. So next within the showcase was HellBlade 2. They talked to the kind of the team behind, you know, Ninja Theory, as it showed, you know, the background to the set and things like that. Well, I mean, it's probably someone's at home, so I'm not too sure when that was done. But they announced it would be set in Iceland, which is cool. They didn't really talk too much about the experience itself, how they would change the ways the first game works, you know, the focus on audio, especially going into the next gen, how that kind of 3D audio tech is going to change the way the game works and things like that. They didn't go into that nature. So I think for the most part, a lot of these studios and games have went for a bit more of a just show what we have now. You know, it's like, oh no, don't, just get it out the door. Let them see what we have, and then, you know, at some point we'll show them the actual thing. So that's what it felt like with that anyway. And then we moved from there on to Psychonauts 2, which is cool. It showed Jack Black in studio complimenting the song, and then the song itself that he sang on, I believe he plays some instrument, some character within the game. It was a rather trippy trailer. It was reasonably strong. It showed some combat. It showed some exploration and these ideas, but again, it didn't show too much of the game itself. It just kind of let you know, like, oh, we're still here, by the way. You know, all of this up to this point was good, but nothing too insane. And then Destiny 2 came along again. It's okay. They're getting it's coming to Series X. It's coming on Game Pass and all the DLC, which is good. I like the gameplay of Destiny 2, not too bothered about the story, but I'll certainly play it on Game Pass. So I'm happy enough to see it there. Then this moves us on to one of my favourite announcements in the entire thing. Stalker 2 is coming to Game Pass. It's coming to Xbox, it's coming to Xbox Series X. I am so excited. I loved Stalker, you know, all of those games on this bad boy right here, and I wonder, it makes me think how they're going to deal with, you know, previous Stalker titles, given that they're not on Xbox. Are they going to give some sort of story thing, or are they going to release maybe some re-release the old games onto there? I'm not too sure, but I'm really excited. I saw it coming up and I thought, oh, maybe it's Metro. And you know, at one point in myself I said, could it be Stalker? Because it just looked like it. And I thought, there is no way they'd put Stalker on there. Like, I just cannot see that happening. And they did. They announced Stalker 2. That is one of, if not my favourite announcements in the entire thing. I'm really, really happy about that. And I think that's what brings it up. You know, the whole way through, it was sitting at a mid to kind of good, like all nice things, nothing too serious. Stalker 2 is a big one for me, I think, personally. And I'm really excited. They didn't show too much, so there's not too much to talk about. It was a simple trailer showing some environments and some general sort of creepiness and things like that. Then that moves us on to Warhammer Darktide, which looked good. That's what I can say about all these. It makes me feel a bit boring. You know, it's like, oh, it looked good, and unfortunately that doesn't give us much. A lot of these is, you know, we're gonna have to wait and see. But the good thing is they're on Game Pass, so we don't even have to put up that money up front, which is great. Warhammer Darktide, you know, presumably it's taking from Vermintide, you know, that sort of first-person thing. If it's not, I'll give some thing here to say it's not, but that's what I imagine it's going for, because Vermintide did really well. It was fun. It played well with friends. That moves on to Tetris Effect Connected. It was a pretty cool trailer. It was well put together. That's something I would like to play on the Oculus Quest up there. I've been meaning to play it for a while because I've heard really great things, but I haven't had a chance to yet. And it seems to be going, what, the kind of the Tetris 99 or something, that kind of the large multiplayer, maybe battle royale thing, which I'd like to see what it is. I'd like to see if it's a free DLC, if it's a paid DLC, if it's a separate experience, see what it's doing. I thought the trailer was I think the trailer was pretty solid, although it's clearly not marketed towards me. It feels almost marketed towards more of a you know, the crowds who would like EDM and quote-unquote casual games. I think maybe that's a little bit unfair to Tetris Effect, and if it is, that's fair enough. But I don't see it as maybe my market there. Maybe I'm wrong. Then that moves on to Gunk, which coming into that, it looked like Grounded. It looked, you know, this small character in a big world or whatever. Even graphically, there's a sort of a Psychonauts-ish like ugliness to some of the characters, very kind of big facial features, but it seemed to be going for more of a sort of an adventure action platformer kind of vibe, a little bit more where, see, a lot of games are heading towards this recently. Psychonauts coming back, No Straight Roads out in a couple of months, a lot of those kind of 2000 to 2005 style like PS2 platformers. And that's really nice. I think it's really nice to see old genres coming back and styles that might otherwise not be there. Yeah, I think that was pretty good. Then of course that moves us on to The Medium, which I thought was a great trailer. I'm a huge fan of Silent Hill, and for a fan of Silent Hill, it looked really good. It played with these two different aspects, you know, these two different worlds clashing, just like, you know, Silent Hill does. And I think it's trying to invoke that imagery a little bit, you know. I imagine evoking one of the biggest horror franchises of all time is probably a good selling point for your game. Look at Daymare 1998. You know, that is a game that kind of goes off the goodwill that happens with Resident Evil 2. It helps that it was pretty decent as well. I have a review over at the Xbox Hub you can read. Then that moves us over to Phantasy Star Online 2. That is a really big thing, but we've seen them, you know, we had an idea that was coming, you know, they talked about Phantasy Star Online. That's really cool. I believe that was, I've said cool a lot, and I think I've said it far too much. I believe that was originally talked about that was originally a release for the Dreamcast, is that right? I'm just going to double check that. I believe the Phantasy Star Online was originally for the Dreamcast, and because the Dreamcast had this really awesome way of, you know, the way it connected to the internet was revolutionary for the time. It worked really well in contrast to the titles, so it felt sort of ahead of its time. Yeah, there we go, sorry. Phantasy Star Online is an online role-play developed by Sonic Team and published by Sega in 2000 for the Dreamcast. There you go. And I believe there are people now who still play that through proxy servers and things like that. Yeah, it's nice to see that they do seem to be goading towards the kind of Asian market more, which is something that traditionally Xbox and Microsoft as a whole have not really done very well in. I mean, look at to talk about the pre-show, Dragon Quest IX Definitive Edition coming to Game Pass. That's a big get too. Now, of course, you know, it does have its Western fans, but you know, Xbox are very, very limited really in their scope. They're traditionally more sort of Western, European and American in its market, and then, you know, Nintendo has the world and PlayStation has the world. And of course they did try to market towards those with more JRPGs and traditional things like that, like Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon, you know, whatever else. But then they kind of gave up. They realised it wasn't selling and they didn't care. And that is a big issue in you know, to sort of just cast aside a market of a few billion people. So it's nice seeing, especially, this brings us to our next one, Crossfire X, which is a single player campaign for Crossfire, which is one of the biggest shooters in the world and huge in Asia, but one that we over here might not even really know about very much, which is really interesting to see, because they did announce Crossfire coming to Xbox last year, or was it last year? Yeah, I think it was about last year, maybe a few months ago. Time does not exist for me anymore. Yeah, it's cool to see that they're working on that. I feel like there's a good market for it, and as far as more single player shooters are concerned, we've got CODs. And then the last really good, at least for what I can think of, the really good, like, just straight FPS shooter I can think of that was in that style, not, you know, your Doom Eternal and your Wolfenstein, in the kind of the more kind of 2010s FPS, the COD style, would be probably Titanfall 2, which was really good, by the way. So it's nice to see a comeback there. But again, I guess it is a market relying on nostalgia, isn't it? There is a lot here that is relying on nostalgia. We've got a callback to their Fantasy Star Online, a lot of action platformer and action adventure stuff. And we got the game that was announced just before the show came on. Yeah, even calls back to these things. You know, opening the show with Halo. I think, while there is definitely a lot of nostalgia here, they did something that I was hoping they were doing but didn't think they would do, which is they talked about games that I didn't know about. That's something that PlayStation have always been good for with their conferences traditionally. And I know comparing the two might end up in a bad place. I don't really want to draw direct comparisons because they're their own entities, and I don't particularly want to argue over which one's better because I don't care. It doesn't affect me which one of those two is better, because I own both and I enjoy both, and there's nothing that my word is going to do in regards to that. But traditionally PlayStation have been very good for announcing lots of different games, lots of different styles, and Xbox haven't. They tend to rely on talking about a few big titles and then not much else. Some multi-plat stuff, some big multi-plats that might come a month or two early or a year early, you know, things that I don't care about. I don't care that Shadow of the Tomb Raider came a year early or Metro Exodus came a year early. Well, I don't even think it did. I don't think Metro Exodus did. That was just shown at their conference last year, or the year before that. Sorry. Yeah, I don't really care about that much. I think I'm glad to see that there is things in the works that are that way. There are new titles that they're actually working on that are exclusive. This is what I've wanted for years. Yeah, within the thing they talked about, you know, this 10 exclusive titles, 22 that has exclusive launch, which is confusing in its wording. I believe it meant like on their launch they will be exclusive. But I also read that the first time I read that as launch titles, like at the launch of the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X, and I don't know which one of those it is yet. But yeah, I think that's the show. It was pretty solid all the way through. It had some good moments. Maybe me saying it's great at the start was a little bit of an over exaggeration, but it was a solid show with some good stuff. Yeah, let me know what you thought, and we'll talk about it. Aren't you forgetting something? Something at the very end that I thought I would make a sly reference to by putting at the very end of my video, which is Fable. That is a huge one, and I'm really, really happy to see that's happening. But we sort of all knew it was coming, didn't we? You know, Fable's official Twitter account was made a few months ago, despite the fact they claimed it was years ago, and there was a screenshot that leaked a week ago. But yeah, Fable, I'm very happy about that. I'm happy with the RPG route that this showcase went. Yeah. So let me know your thoughts. Feel free to message me on Twitter, which might be a bit of an awkward putting into this video because it's a terrible username that's hard to spell and hard to find. But reach out on Twitter and send me a little message. Thanks for watching.